So, what the hell is an alignment, and why do I see all these funky charts with Darth Vader in them? Alignment was a term used mainly in tabletop role-playing games to describe your character's morality and principles. It was divided into good or evil, and chaotic or lawful, with the true wildcard option just being plain neutral. The terms on their own are pretty self-explanatory, however, when you put them together, you get interesting ways to break down your character. Some of your favorite characters, like Darth Vader, can be easily explained with these alignments in mind. He's lawful evil, by the way. He follows orders in a hierarchy, and he works for the bad guys. Closed case. Donkey Kong? He's chaotic neutral. He don't give a f***. He just wants those bananas. Alignments are a cool way to look at a character and figure out what makes them tick. So with that in mind, let's take a look at fighting game characters and check their alignments. On today's episode, we're taking a look at everyone's favorite one-armed samurai baddie, Baiken. In order to get an idea for Baiken's moral compass, we should take a look at her story so far. In the world of Guilty Gear, there was a century-long war named the Crusades. This war was between mankind and advanced magical creatures called Gear. In the beginning of the Crusades, the nation of Japan was completely destroyed by the Gear's leader, Justice, and its refugees were placed in colonies for their protection. Our lone samurai was born into one of these colonies. During one fateful day while she was still a child, Baiken's colony was attacked by Gears. In the attack, she lost her arm and eye, and even witnessed the death of her friends and family. Baiken would never forget this day, the disgusting creatures tearing her life apart. And in the middle of all of those flames and chaos, a man, watching his creations, destroy her home. This fateful night would be Baiken's motivation for the entire series, searching for the identity of that man for revenge. Now that we have the background and motivation, let's take a look at her actions throughout the series. Baiken in the original Guilty Gear was simply a secret character. She kind of got bodied by Justice, but is still alive. Not much to really talk about here. However, in Guilty Gear X, Baiken revisits her old colony, and it is there when she meets and fights Kai Kisuke. The confrontation ends quickly, but this quick temper is something to note. In this game, she proclaims that she wants to kill every gear and person that gets in her way. She fights Sol, Potemkin, and even Faust. That man is still on her mind, her number one target. In Guilty Gear XX Accent Core plus whatever the heck, Baiken ends up catching up to that man. When meeting him, she doesn't necessarily get the revenge that she envisioned for so long. She actually ends up in distress. Is this it? The man I've been hunting for years. She questions her motivations and wanders yet again. In Plus R, there is in fact an alternate ending to Baiken's story. It's not canon, but it's a fun what if, in which Baiken becomes straight up chaotic evil. She straight up turns into a serial killer, killing Ino just in cold blood. And after killing Ino, she goes on a killing spree, until Kai catches up with her and tries to bring her in. A fun little what if scenario, but like I mentioned before, not canon. So moving on. When we get to Rev 2, Baiken's episode mode is primarily centered around her protecting a Japanese colony. It's altruistic and vows to protect this colony, possibly making up for the tragedy she experienced as a child. And now this leads us to Guilty Gear Strive. We're introduced to Happy Chaos, supposedly the real culprit behind the attack on Baiken's colony. It is assumed that Baiken is back on her path for vengeance, and with her, she takes care of Delilah, a young girl that happens to be Bedman's sister. Now with all of this said, you might be wondering, what is Baiken's alignment? At first she was brash and often rushed into fights with people and creatures that reminded her of Gears. The one true motivation was revenge, and when she struggled even with that, she took off on her own. Later on, we find the preservation of the Japanese colonies is also very important to her. Who knows what she'll do once she has her revenge. However, with her past actions in mind, I believe Baiken is chaotic neutral.
何とぞよしなにエンマ何とぞよしなにエンマ殿
Bikin. Win.